How's it going, guys? Welcome in here at Kurt Magoosh Sports. I used to have a channel, out there called Rover Sports. Still do that, show in the, in Philadelphia area. And, Rover Sports was, really an NFL channel. And I still, upload content on there quite a bit. I like this channel because I can go from, Nebraska football. I can talk about Washington State. But then I can also talk about the New York Giants, and the New York Giants are my favorite football team. So the Giants now are in a period of transition. I was wrong about Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge. Like, I thought that Joe Judge would be, kind of that great line between Belichick and a little bit of Saban. I thought that he would really be innovative and understand, offensive football. He didn't understand offense at all. He entrusted Freddie Kitchens, who, Freddie was just over his head. He had one good year in Cleveland, and Freddie Kitchens did not work out really with the players. I don't think that they liked the scheme, and it just ended up being a complete disaster. Nobody was on the right page on the offensive side of the football. So now the Giants, in this GM search, they're trying to hire Joe Schoen and Adrian Wilson are the first two that interviewed. Adrian Wilson was a terrific football player for Arizona, a guy that's a respected leader, and he's taken his IQ, his football smarts, and his abilities, and he's quickly become a star in scouting ranks. So, and he's also been instrumental in, probably Kyler Murray. You look at the way that Arizona's drafted, you have Murphy back there, Byron Murphy, I believe. You also have Budda Baker, who's a sensational cornerback. And so Adrian Wilson has been around the modernized offenses of Cliff Kingsbury, Sean McVay. Who else is in that division? That's Kyle Shanahan. So Adrian Wilson is instrumental, and he's working with, a guy in Steve Keim, and Steve Keim took the biggest risk letting go of Josh Rosen and signing Kyler Murray. So, Adrian's impressive. There's another guy from the Arizona Cardinals that is coming by to interview today. I think it's Quentin Harris is coming by. You have the Tennessee guys, Cowden and Monty Fort. I don't think that the Tennessee guys are going to get the job. It's too close to New England. You look at John Robinson and that staff. They put together a really good staff, but I think that the Giants are going to go in a very different direction. I think that there's two big favorites for the job, or three. You have Joe Hortzig. That is a guy from Baltimore, who I really like. I think he's an excellent evaluator of talent. He was with Eric DeCosta for the last 20 years and Ozzie Newsome. So he's been around Hall of Fame executives like Ozzie. And John Harbaugh, they're always on the cutting edge. They draft Lamar Jackson. They draft Patrick Queen, Marshall Yanda. They've always had a terrific offensive line, like Bradley Bozeman, their offensive line. And then this year, the great example is when Lamar Jackson, when the MVP quarterback goes down, Joe Hortzig and that staff and Greg Roman, they end up putting in Tyler Huntley, and they still have success under Tyler Huntley. So, Greg Roman with Kaepernick was very, very good, but then Greg Roman bounced around to a lot of places. He was in Buffalo, and then he went to the Baltimore Ravens. Wink Martindale's an interesting defensive coordinator. I love how aggressive he can be with his blitz packages. But in terms of a head coach, my clear answer for head coach is Kellen Moore. I'm not backing away from that. I've said Kellen Moore is an offensive genius. I've said that he's an offensive guy for the last, 5 years. When he was at Boise State, his mind was like a computer. He went like 50-1. He's 5'10". He doesn't have, any unbelievable NFL traits, but he was deadly accurate, and he just knows offensive football, and he's so willing to adapt. He gets along with players, he puts them in a position to succeed, and he's always on the cutting edge, and that's what the Giants need. They need a cutting edge guy that also can relate to the locker room, and Kellen Moore can do that. He can lead, he can relate, he's going to be able to be very innovative in terms of him, switching up coordinators. He's going to be a guy that can totally lead this ship in the right direction. So Kellen Moore, from an offensive perspective, you need to score points. You need to try to hire a McVay or a Shanahan. Look at the guys in the playoffs in the NFC. You have Sirianni, who's an offensive coach, with Shane Steichen, that is very adaptive, and Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, and they've created their scheme and switched up their scheme in order to be successful. All right, he's an offensive coach. All right, Nick Sirianni is. Then you look at Cliff Kingsbury, who of course is all offense, all air raid stuff with Kyler Murray, a great quarterback developer. You look at Sean McVay, and Sean McVay is a guy that, again, you look at Sean McVay, he was a young offensive guy just like Kellen Moore, and he succeeded. Look at Zach Taylor, a Sean McVay protege, succeeds. Kyle Shanahan, also in the NFC, also an offensive guy, also a run the football guy, all right, an offensive coach. So, you look at Arians and Byron Leftwich. I know that's kind of Tom Brady. Matt LaFleur was a Sean McVay guy, a Kyle Shanahan guy from that tree as well, from that offense. He's done a spectacular job in Green Bay. Then you look at, McCarthy and Kellen Moore, again, offensively driven staff. So who in the NFC is a defensive-led staff that's in there? You got the number 1 seed. You got Packers, Bucks, Cowboys, Rams, Cardinals, Niners, and then Eagles. So you have no defensive coaches in the playoffs in the NFC. In the AFC, you have Mike Tomlin, who's a phenomenal defensive coach, who's kind of the outlier in terms of the defensive coach. It's absolutely outstanding. And I love defensive football as well. Like, I like Dan Quinn and those guys, but if you end up hiring Dan Quinn, look what happened when Kyle Shanahan left. The operation went to crap. So, Dan Quinn, he has still reinvented himself. He's not a bad choice. DeMeco Ryans is a phenomenal defensive coordinator as well, who's a great charismatic leader. So you can make it work as long as you're always as long as your defensive coordinator knows about offensive football. But look at the AFC. It's Andy Reid, it's Zach Taylor. It's a John Gruden team with Bushati that, Gruden kind of created in his mold of running the football. Gruden is from the Mike Shanahan tree, or Kyle Shanahan and all those guys came under Gruden. So Gruden was kind of the mastermind behind even Sean McVay and all those guys. All right. Then also you have Josh Allen. I know, so that's a good example, I guess, of Sean McDermott, who's a defensive guy. He does hire Brian Dable. He's done a phenomenal job, Brandon Beane. So that's, if you're going to hire a defensive guy, it's got to be in that Sean McDermott mold. It's got to be in the Tomlin mold. So certainly Sean McVay has done it for Able. So you do look at the AFC. The AFC, I guess, would be your example of, offense is not always offense is not always king, because Frank Reich lost out to Mike Vrabel. All right, so that's certainly interesting. John Harbaugh's the special teams coach, but he's not in the playoffs. You look at Joe Burrow, Mac Jones, of course, is Bill Belichick. So it's hard. It's definitely hard to emulate Bill Belichick. Again, Kellen Moore would be my first choice. Then going down from there, I would look at Dan Quinn then maybe second and see if he can be innovate with the offensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel is a guy I would seriously look at from Yale. Just could be brilliant in run schemes, could be a great offensive coordinator. Could Kevin O'Connell really be creative? I mean, O'Connell's been with Sean McVay for several years. Very, very personable guy. Kevin O'Connell is really, really again, you meet Kevin O'Connell and you just see how he operates, and he's cool, and the players are going to want to play for him, and he is going to be the opposite of rock the boat Joe Judge. I think that he's going to be a guy that's very adaptive, and I would certainly have him in for an interview. DeMeco Ryans is another guy that I would look at, honestly, from San Francisco. Liam Cohen from Kentucky. Now I'm just getting crazy, but Wes Goodwin and Liam Cohen, I'm excited to see what these guys end up doing in their futures as well. All right, so that's what I'd say. And then for the GM position, I'm looking at Hortzig as my number one choice from the Ravens. Joe Schoen is another guy. Joe Schoen from Buffalo is very highly touted, or Adam Peters, but I would definitely go Hortzig number one. I'm even looking at Adrian Wilson possibly as the second choice from Arizona. Joe Schoen is a decent, guy. I think he could be smart. I think Schoen has a very good chance at the job. I like him. Adam Peters is decent, pretty good as well. But Hortzig is my guy. Hortzig is a real football guy. He's just easy to talk football with, knows schematics well. He's kind of like Joe Douglas and John Lynch. He's a guy's guy who really talks football. Hortzig and Adrian Wilson are both guys who know football really well. A lot of these guys are more executive type guys. But Hortzig to me I would go Hortzig, but Kellen Moore is where I'd really go in this search. I would really go Kellen Moore above everything.